Today I'm going to go over some freehand techniques for tattooing. I'm going to use a stencil, but I'm not going to use any reference. So I'm just going to create the shading as I go. I'm not looking at a picture, and I'm actually going to think through the process of where the light's coming from, how that's going to fall across the forms, and that's going to help me create the finished piece. So this app, the way I built it, is to simulate the needles going in. So I just selected, there's a 27 mag soft edge. So the way this works is it simulates how a tattoo needle would go into the skin. So that's a soft edge. This would be a regular 27 mag. So you can see how the hand speed affects the stroke. So basically it's alternating between rendering the stroke and rendering nothing. Now, changing the machine speed, you can see the difference that makes. Honestly, I never use slow speed. I'm not sure where that would come in handy. Maybe with like stippling effects, I'm not sure. I haven't experimented enough. So the trick is to figure out how to make a nice, pleasing fill or shade using needles, and that's where this comes in handy. You're not going to be wasting supplies. You can get your technique down before you start getting into skin. Set up our palette. I'm going to use 4 shades of gray because that's what I use when I'm tattooing, and white. First thing I want to do is save this project. I'm just going to call it Skull Web. And then it's important to save as you go. Hopefully I'll implement a feature to where it can auto-save as you go. I'll work on that. Start with black. And I started with the corner shading right along this edge here. Just scrubbing lightly. And as far as speed goes, I want to be fast enough so that I can work as quickly as I can, but not so fast that I don't get a smooth fill. So it's always a balance, trying to find that middle ground. You don't want to go too slow, because I could sit here and work really slow and get it nice and filled. But the one thing that this app does not simulate is how quick the skin will beat up. So when you're working on skin, you got to find that balance. And I screwed up again. See how I started working over here? Well, when I work over here, look where my hand is. It's over in this area. So, let's try again. And see, I don't mind doing this over and over. This could get annoying to a lot of people, and I understand that. But the thing is, I'm training myself. And so if I keep screwing up, well, then I do it again until I get it right, until it becomes natural. Then I don't have to think about it anymore. So right now, using a 13 mag soft edge corner shading, meaning with the machine I'm laying it on its corner. And I'm using very little little shoveling motion. It's almost kind of a back and forth as I'm pushing forward. I'm gonna go around the teeth, corner shading. I'm going to turn off corner shading so I can sit here and just do some fill. So you can see along this edge, I was just following the motion along the edge, and then as I get away from the edge, I can go back into my circles. I need to start pushing this way, so I'm going to start doing some shading in the teeth. I'm going to grab a liner really quick. Let me do a save. Because when I had the one crash, I had just been shading a while, and then I hit I went to a liner and I started the line and it crashed. So I need to start analyzing. I need to start deciding, you know, which grays I'm going to use where. And I'm trying to achieve a very dimensional setup. So we've got all this dead space here out on the outside, which is basically creating our border around the entire piece. And these edges, whatever's beneath them, any light that's coming through needs to cast some sort of shadow on these. And that will help, you know, the darkers are gonna recede or look further away. So I need to give the impression that these are beneath this. So I'm going to start with a dark gray, and especially along these edges here. And I might even start with the corner right in that area here and here. Okay. So I want to keep that. And there it crashed. Oh! All right, load up the file, Skull Web 2. So let's get into some shading with these teeth. I'm gonna start with the liner. I think I'm gonna check. What if I do corner mode with a liner? Yes, that's what's causing the crash. Okay, hang on. I gotta go do an update real quick. Okay, so I'm in Xcode. I'm gonna check out the code here for the corner shading. Oh. So here are my brushes here. Selected corner brush N3L2. Let's go into the assets. N3L. There is no N3L2. So, and you don't corner shade with a liner anyway, so I just need to make that so it's using the exact same brush. Same with the 5, same with the 7. All right, that's good. All right, now I need to push this out to the iPad and test it. So that should fire it up in here. That was frustrating. So now I have to test this. All right, so mag, liner, go to corner. Okay, that works. No crash, no crash. I should test each of these brushes in corner mode to make sure we don't get crashes. So it was crashing because there was no brush stroke called N3L2. Ah, that's a relief. Okay, got that updated. It's in the App Store. We're waiting for review. Hopefully within the next couple hours they'll approve it, and it'll be pushed out to all the devices, so anybody that's having problems will hopefully not experience those anymore. All right, let's load our project back up. SkullWeb 2, there we are. Now, one thing that this app doesn't simulate right now is lights going over darks in a tattoo. When you've got a lighter color value going over a darker value, generally it's not going to change the darker value much. The darker value is going to be the more prevalent value. Now, I have experimented with this app on trying to simulate that by using blending modes. So painting with like a multiply blending mode or a soft light or overlay blending mode, and it's not bad. It kind of works. In fact, the last update I almost implemented it to where you had a button where you could just press it. It would initiate the blending mode, and then it would simulate better when you were doing lights over darks, how it would be when you're doing an actual tattoo. However, where it failed was when you were using like your really light values. So like if I was using white and because I was painting in a blending mode, the white wasn't actually coming out white, it was coming out darker. And so I may implement that in the future when I figure out the best way to do it, but for now, you can actually cheat on this by making your whites, your lighter values stronger than your darks as you paint over them. I'm jumping I want to go from a dark to a light. I want this to be a little lighter, but this value jump is a little high. I don't want to go from this dark gray all the way up to this medium gray. So what I can do is, instead of rinsing, I'll just dip, and that'll lighten it just slightly, but not full all the way to that value. Okay, and then I'm going to rinse and go back to my black and just kind of smooth this out a little bit. I don't need the edges to be super sharp because, again, softer edges are going to recede. So a softer edge here is going to push this element more into the background. Alright, so now let's go to a liner, and I'll go ahead and do a black right along this edge, along the teeth. Right up where the teeth insert into the skull. And then I think I'll do a corner shade. Tap. See, wrong corner. I tap lightly at first to get that pointer to come up to give me an idea of where the stroke is, because I want to come off this edge a little bit so that it's dark, because that kind of tucks under, and then the teeth kind of right at the gum line, so I want that to be crisp at the bottom but then a little softer. And the corner shading, the area is so small that I'm going to turn off corner shading, and I'm just going to push up from that edge and lift to feather it. That way it's softer. Along the edge where each tooth is, I'm going to come down. Like that, and then let's go ahead and use a dark gray and bring it up a tad. And that gets me to thinking about my process with, I'm going to pull off this Again, I'm pulling and lifting. So I'm pulling off that dark edge, and then as I'm lifting, that's going to create a softer edge this way, and that's going to give us a gradual change in value. One thing that I need to be aware of that I'm not doing is when I'm dipping between colors. And granted, this is just practice, but when you're actually doing the tattoo, it's a good practice because I was choosing the dark and then dipping into the light. It's a better practice to choose your light first and dip in the dark, because the more you dip in the dark and then dip in a lighter one, your little ink cap that has this color will start getting darker because you're selecting a dark and then going into it, and a little bit of this is getting mixed in with that, and eventually this is going to get darker and darker. So it's a better practice to dip in your lighter ink and then darken it down. So if that's something you want to train yourself to do, it's a good practice to do that here as well. Obviously I don't, and maybe I should work on that, because when I'm tattooing I do catch myself doing that, and then causes issues. So let's see, if we do this one and darken it down a bit, I can come off this tooth. Okay, so we're coming around, and because I want to give that sense that the tooth is rounded, so it's going to come around and then it's going to get a little darker again towards the front of the tooth. But I don't want it super dark, so I'm going to do a light shade and put it right in here, and then push it this way. I can even go lighter for right in the middle. Okay, so that way we're getting this motion, but also we got to remember the top of the tooth. Let's go a little bit darker. The top of the tooth is going to catch a little bit of light, and then be a little darker underneath, so that gives it kind of a ridge. And normally you could do like a white highlight right along this little edge here. However, if we're really thinking realistically here, there's this mustache right here on the top lip that would probably be casting a shadow down over these teeth. So theoretically, you probably wouldn't have that white highlight right there if you've got this big mustache going on. But anyway, let's go back to working on these teeth. So I've already set the values of this tooth. That's going to help me determine these values here because they're pushing back. So I don't want to have them to have these same values. I want them to gradually get darker. Go back to 9 mag. And then we'll bring its value up a bit. So we want to simulate the same type of shape, but just it's going to be a little darker. And then the one back there, we'll darken it up. So what I did was I chose the darkest gray and then dipped a little bit of black, so it's not full black, but it's darker than this dark shade. Pulling, lifting, pulling, lifting. using a liner here to define. There's another tooth right here. I'm just going to line that and pull off that with the liner because it's right back in there. Let's go back to our mag. Back to the black. And maybe even feather by pulling and lifting a little bit in this direction. Kind of darken the whole thing. All right, so looking good. I'm gonna go over to these teeth here. This front one, that front little gap is going to tuck in, but I don't want it completely black, so I'm going to go with the dark, and I may even line that. And there we go. So it's not a full black, because I don't want a super sharp edge there. And then we're going to start lightening on this one pretty quick, meaning changing value rather quickly because I don't want this to be a super dark tooth. Go over to the next one. Again, I'm going to go back to my liner. Let's rinse, go to a dark, and then bring it up in value just a bit. And just kind of ghost in that line there. That separation, go a little lighter. Go between the next one. And again, these teeth back here are going to be gradually getting darker. Also, let's go ahead and corner. Let's get this edge in there like that. I'm going to switch to the other corner because now I'm going to, let's lighten that. And just corner shade right in there, and that'll help define that tooth. And that'll push that little tether back. Good. Okay, let's turn off corner shading. And that tooth, let's go ahead and use that gray. And then lighten it. And then dark gray, lighten that a bit. And then let's go even darker back here. Let's go to our liner and again reshape those guys. Okay, so now we got some teeth. Start working on that mustache. I'm just gonna use a 9 mag and let's do a dark gray rather than a full black because we've got all black here, so we've got a bit of a challenge to make sure we don't lose the mustache in this area, so we'll have to use lighter values. But since I've already established that the light's coming more from the top, then the bottom edge of this this mustache is going to be dark. to a black. A little bit of separation in between these two. It's almost like they're two separate beasts. So as that rolls around, I'm just gonna make that edge, this side a little darker. And another thing I could do, so I could take a liner if I wanted to sharpen some of the strands of the mustache. Let's go ahead and do a save real quick. I'll go back to my Magnum and start getting some lighter grays. Alright, so this area underneath the mustache, it's dark around here, and I wanted it to get a little bit of a value change right there, but still keep it dark, just so we can get a little bit of separation there. And then I guess I'll go back to the black and run an edge along that mustache. Magnum, do some lighters. To the liner and use like a medium gray so we can get some variance in that light. And then we can use some black to shape this edge here. Looking good. Okay, so still working this way, so we might as well start. Going up this way, I could line this area right here. Back to our Magnum. Corner shade. So I'm going to turn off corner shading because this is receding right through this area, so it doesn't need to be as sharp, so I don't need a sharp edge there. The soft is better. And I do realize I completely obliterated this tether right here. Way to go, not paying attention. However, I'm going to keep that edge in, and it'll just be coming out of the shadow. And I may even be able to run a line of white over the top of that. In this app, the white will be very prevalent, but in an actual tattoo, because you're putting white over the black, it's not going to be as prevalent, so that'll help salvage that tether right there. And just to show what I mean, I'll grab a 3, I'll rinse, even grab just a in fact, I'm going to actually try and simulate the white over the black by just choosing a gray, a lighter gray. And it might be better just to do it with a Magnum. In fact, I'm going to use actually a dark gray. Let's go back to black. And one thing you could think about, you would think you would make this little edge right here darker because we made these edges darker. But if we think about the light coming this way, that casts the shadow this way. Well, when we're coming this way, this edge, the shadow would be casting down here. So it actually wouldn't be hitting on this edge here. So we actually want to keep that edge light. Again, little circles, and pulling out there at the edge, just pull and lift, feather. This is fill through here because it's all dark and solid, but as I get to the edge, I'm going to pull and lift, pull and lift. See how we're looking. Take a liner. Just sharpen this edge. Pull off that. So, zygomatic arch here. It's going to be darker on the bottom. I've kind of roughed in where my shading needs to go. Let's go ahead and use a dark gray. And I'm going to come up off this edge here. And there's a little separation line going across the, kind of diagonally across the zygomatic arch. It's just it's almost like a little suture, I guess. I don't think that's the right word. But I'm gonna take the liner, and I'm not gonna go full black. I've already got the dark gray selected, and I'm just gonna darken it a bit. And just bring it through like that. Let's go ahead and rinse, go to the black, and get this eye darked in, filled in. It's easier to judge your values when you're working dark to light. So anytime we can get these dark areas in, it just makes it easier to judge which values you need to go. Let's go to a medium gray. Come off this edge. Kind of want to come off this suture a little bit. I need to stop using that word because I don't think I'm using it right. That's what I want to call it though. So just pulling off that edge so it gives the there's a impression there, a separation. Okay, and then let's go lighten it just a bit and finish getting this area filled. And then here. And then even coming off of here, let's darken that a bit. And then go even lighter through this area here. And down here will be a little darker. And then let's even go a little darker down here. Where it's tucking back into the darkness. So that'll be darker, but then I quickly want to bring it up in value. And then maybe even more, because we're starting to catch some light. Then I've got another edge here that I want to, I don't want a hard edge. I want to give the impression that there's, let me go to a liner, because right here, I don't want to use a black, but around this nose, I want to make sure that ridge is nice and defined. And then I want to kind of feather off of it so it's not an obvious line. And I have a 9 mag. It might even, maybe one day I'll add a 5 mag, because that would really help. Just a little 5 magnum to come off these edges. I'm choosing a 7 now, which seems to work pretty good. Just softening these edges here because I want to get the impression of roundness. So if it's tucking away, it's getting darker as it goes around that edge. We've got a dark gray. This little piece going deep into the nasal cavity needs to be really dark back in there, but not black because we don't want it to mix in with that black. In value as it gets into the light. And dark gray through here. It's coming out of the light. And then as it hits the top of this mustache, we'll drop in value here and try and keep these two elements separated. Let's go over to this edge over here. We're going to be pretty dark coming through here. And kind of exaggerated the forms on this skull just to give it some character, because this isn't a realistic skull by any means, obviously. So using the darks here, as I come up closer to the light, I should probably bring it up in value a little bit for these shadows. And I can also use that value to come off these darker ones here. Lost a little bit of that edge through there. See how we're looking? That edge could use a little bit of work, and I'm just going to use black with a magnum because I don't need a hard edge right there. I know I lined it earlier, but now that I've started putting in shades, I realize, well, I kind of want it to disappear into the black, so let's just soften it. And since I've got some black, let's go ahead and finish off this area here. Coming off these areas here. Some shadowing going on right here where we start to transfer up to the zygomatic arch. Separation there. We've got these little, let's see, let's start coming up in value. Just a lot of interlocking forms. Okay, that'll be darker through there. Those darks into lights. Let's see how we're looking. Okay. Let's go to the 7 meg. Lighter. Because the light, this is coming into the light here. So we're going to start seeing these lighten up quite a bit. Forgot that form back there. Looking good. So it's got some nice texture. Gonna feather this right through here. And I need some separation. Might have been too dark. This is like too fat through there. Let's get some black. Even reshape it a little bit, just to give it some character. All right, looking good. All right, so now coming back around. If the light's coming from this way, this little edge here is probably going to be darker. So first off, let's get these little crevices put in. One through the center, I want to do it really dark, but it's right in the light, so I'm actually probably going to do it more gray. And then let's go to a 7 and lighten that up and come off of it. Over on this other edge, we're going to start, we're going to be darker. And then start to wrap lighter. As it rolls over into the light. It's going to tuck under this little brow, so we need it darker through there. full black. Kind of define that edge right there. These are gonna gradually come up in value there. Go lighter. Okay, lighter. Okay, so this little area here, I don't want to do full black in any of these areas. But I need this area to be darker than this area. So let's just use a dark gray right along those edges. And then just bring it up in value right through here. And maybe go back down and go over this little shadow here. There we go. Through there. A little monocle is probably going to leave a little bit of shadow, but it's going to, since the light's coming this way, it's going to be more over here. So, got the dark gray. Start to come back into the light here. We're kind of changing direction at this point, but lighter value or darker value? Let's do darker right at the separation. And then come up right through there. Okay. And then I can go through with a darker value and just reinforce those separations. Obviously this area jumps out because it's not finished, so let's go over there and then we'll come back over to this edge of this nose. So over here, medium dark. And then come up off this dark here. Bring it up more into the white. Bit. Get this area here. And then drop it down just a tad and finish off this area here and here. And then now I think I want to put in the shadow for the monocle. And let's just go a really dark gray with a little bit of black, and I imagine it's probably going to come off. I'm just going to little circles so it's soft on the edges. Suppose go to my black and grab my liner and then hard edge the monocle. That outer edge, and then we'll do the inner edge. Let's do a light gray, line the inner. Side and the outer on this side. See what we're looking like. It's easier to get that. I'm going to take some gray, darken it, clean up that edge. The monocle to be pretty sharp. Okay. This edge here. Grab a 7 mag. We got a dark gray. Probably come off this edge. That inner edge. Push up from underneath to give some shape. Even go a little darker in a few spots. All right, now let's bring it up. Brought it up too much, I think. take my liner, let's drop it down. Gotta work that edge a little bit. We can take our mag, feather it out. Cool. All right. So that was the majority of our details in that area there. Let's go ahead and get this eye busted out. I'm gonna go to a liner. Let's go black. I'm gonna leave a little area for the moat, with a little highlight. Top edge of the eyelid can be really dark. Where the eyelid comes in at the top, I'm not going to do as dark. Do a corner shade. Oops, wrong corner. Shade. Let's come up in value. Let's do dark. Okay, now the inside of the eye, bring it up in value. This upper eyelid's going to be casting a shadow down onto the eyeball. Do a 7. Let's get a little darker in these corners, but not full black. And then might start coming up in value. Little area right in here. Sharpen up that edge. Get right in there, and then a little round shader for this little area right in here. Then let's get a little darker, and top of that eyelid will be casting a shadow. And then let's just put a little highlight in there, a little moat. Okay, so that monocle needs work. Okay, so now we can get back to one. How we looking? Okay. The tucks under is going to be a little darker, so I want to quickly bring it back up into the light. starting to think I brought it up too quickly. And remember too, as we're coming up, we're also coming over, so this has got to start getting darker. Got some shaping to do in that area there. Got to get this brow worked in too. Light's going to be hitting primarily in this area here, and then we need it to start going back. I'm going to go back to my big mag. Okay, I'm going to create, let's do a 7 meg. I'm going to create a little bit of depth there so that those are coming out at us a little bit. One. And over this side, let's just do the top edge there. Oh, that's pretty good. Alright. Now we were dark over here. Got a little bit of a suture edge right there. There I go, using that suture word again, and I don't know if I'm using it correctly. And it kind of comes up over the top of the head. All right, over in this area here. Corner shade, wrong corner. Corner shading off. And bring it up a little bit so that this edge is lighter, but not super light. So that way we have a little bit of a separation between that edge. And let's go darker. Okay, we need to bring this over. So we need to start lightening it. Oh yeah, that's that little piece of the monocle. Gotta get that zygomatic arch in there. It's gonna be dark back through here. I was gonna make these strands real detailed, almost like a Spider-Man type web, where it's got the little twirls around it. But it's kind of a, not really a small tattoo, but if it were bigger, but because it's kind of small, and I don't really feel like spending a whole lot of time. I mean, I could just, you know, I could use a liner and put some details in some of the closer strands to give it some character and a little bit of variety. But since I'm just practicing and demonstrating the app, I was kind of foregoing that. Yet here I go. I made that a really hard edge, and that's really going to draw your eye to it, so I need to really feather that out. So it's just like casting a shadow and then getting soft. So now I just do some white highlights and let's do a little bit of texture. Now granted the three's a little, I'd much rather use a tinier needle, but I can do like some little holes. And as I see along that edge, I need this edge a little softer. Okay, back to the 3. Do a 7 just to give a little bit of variety, put a bigger hole somewhere. And then normally what you can do is, since the light's coming this way, I don't know if I'll be able to pull this off with this big old Apple pencil, but you put a little highlight along that edge underneath the hole, like that. Because that little edge would be catching the light. Down here, you wouldn't use white. You knock the value down because it's kind of in shadow, so it wouldn't be a full white highlight. There. Same here, I'm just using, that's not white, that's a gray. Same with these ones, because they're in shadow, they're not going to be catching direct light. Okay, and then let's see if there's any places where we can put a few little white highlights where it's catching the light. Probably the monocle would have. Screw this up a bit. Oh, also back there, I missed a little bit of gray back there. There we go. And then let's put, oh wait, go back. Okay, then back to our highlights. A little metal piece on the monocle. Look good with a little dash of light. Those little edges are facing the light. I could put a little, I'm basically looking for edges that are facing directly up towards the light source. here. Zygomatic might have a little bit, maybe a little there. Back here should probably be a little darker. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. There's shading techniques for tattoo design. Pretty cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and save. I'm also going to export it. We'll do a save image. So that way, when I go into my photos, I've got a nice clean export of it. And then I'm just gonna screen cap this because I could probably use that for the YouTube video icon. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something.